All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for clicking on the video. Today we have another versus video for you. We have the Super Nintendo version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 versus the Game Boy Advance version of Mortal Kombat Advance, which is basically Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. So now, why am I pairing these two up instead of the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, for instance? Well, let me tell you something about the Game Boy Advance. I don't know if you guys know this, but the Game Boy Advance is actually more powerful than the Super Nintendo. And yes, I'm looking at an article here. The Game Boy Advance has a much faster CPU, 32-bit, and RAM, putting it closer to a PlayStation. That's how it was pretty much able to handle any version, any Super Nintendo version game, and then porting it over to the Game Boy Advance with extra features and bonus features and such. So when Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was released for the Game Boy Advance, like myself and many others, I'm sure, we were excited about this. I enjoyed carrying that portable system around, especially the Game Boy Advance SP with the backlight and everything. I had that on me all the time. So the Super Nintendo version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was the most expensive Super Nintendo game I ever bought back in the day. I remember it was $99.99. With tax, it was like $113 or whatever. It was an expensive game for that system. And when I played it, I remember enjoying it. I'm not going to get too much into that right now until we actually start playing the games and looking at them. The Game Boy Advance version of Mortal Kombat Advance, they called it, I was super excited about. And, you know, when I got playing it, well, that's going to be for the video. So the fact that it's more powerful, like I said, the Game Boy Advance handled games like, like Super Mario Kart, for instance. This version's actually, I find it better than the Super Nintendo version. It's not a port, but it's a different version of, it's a different game entirely, but it plays more like the Nintendo 64 version I found. Street Fighter, they released, I can't remember what it was called. I think it was like Street Fighter Plus or something, but it was basically Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Game Boy Advance. Awesome, big characters, great controls. I should probably look that one up in a video too, because I played the heck out of that back in the day, and I remember it being incredible. You know, all the Final Fantasy ports, the Zelda ports, the Super Mario ports and such. Game Boy Advance was a very powerful, very awesome system, and it was definitely one that I always had with me growing up. So I think this should be a pretty even comparison versus video, so it'll be tough to find a champion for this one. Or will it be? I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Game Boy Advance version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. If not, well, enjoy the video. You're going to see a bit of that. But if you are familiar, I think you know what this video might end up turning out to be like, what the final verdict might be like for this competition. So once again, we're going to look at graphics, sound, controls, and fun factor for each. We'll play a bit of each, and then we'll talk about it a bit, and then we'll have the final verdict at the end. Score out of 20. Everything is you know, best out of 5, graphics out of 5, sound out of 5, etc. And yeah, we'll come up with a score of out of 20 at the end of this. And you know what? Let's get right into some gameplay. That being said, let's take a look at the graphics for both. And yeah, let's do this. All right, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo. Let's take a look at the graphics first. You'll notice the title screen for some reason kind of small in the middle. That's not a big deal. It looks Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Not much to say about that. The intro is missing the arcade cutscenes. No big deal. The story's still there. Let's take a look at the graphics first. There are several options, several cheat menus. We're not going to look at those today. We will set it to very easy, however. Now, why are we going to do that? Because this game is very hard if you don't know the exploits. And I do not know the exploits for this one. So this is going to be a face value review of the game. That being said, let's get into some gameplay here and really focus on the graphics for this first portion. So 8-player tournament, 4-player 2-on-2. It's all there, just like the arcade. Here we go. Character select screen looks good. Unlike the arcade version, Rain and Noob Saibot are available, with one hidden character in the middle. Let's, you know what, let's just go random. We got Melina. No voice for Melina. Not a big deal. Does sound very good still. Focus on the graphics. The 4 towers. Can we pause? No, we can't. Takes you right into the game. So, first things first. Outstanding. So the game looks good. It's fluid. The animation's fluid. Melina looks good. Combo. Drop combo, probably on my part. Oh. Scorpion wins. Using the Super Nintendo controller for this. There you go. It's just a matter of fluidity. Melina wins. So graphically, you know, it's on a bigger TV, obviously, right now. A little bit pixelated, but overall, this is the first stage in the Arcade 2 for Ultimate. Overall, it looks good. I'll mess that up. Fatality works. Bit of a Shao Kahn noise there, but anyways, graphically, it looks good. Let's take a look at the Game Boy Advance version now. Alright, so it fires up, music starts playing right away. Midway. Looks good, sounds good. Developed by Virtuecraft. I've never even heard of that company. But Mortal Kombat Advance on a system more powerful than Super Nintendo? Excellent. So the music kind of loops here. Difficulty, we're going to go on easiest. Blood on, obviously. Fatalities on. And you have the contrast, which is fine. It's blown up on the big screen anyways. Let's look at the graphics. Here we go. Title screen looks really good. You got 2-on-2, 1-on-1, and then regular Mortal Kombat. So there you have it. All the characters are included. Even Human Sub-Zero is in this one. I believe he's in the Super Nintendo version. Oh, Shiva was taken out of the Super Nintendo version. That's right. Shiva's not in this one either, but Noob, Saibot, and Rain are here. Can we go random? Can't go random. So we'll just use Melina because we use Melina for the other system. Let's see. There you have it. Good voice too. Definitely know this. So it's a bit pixelated, but remember, this was on a smaller screen. Here we go. Graphically, so graphically it looks okay. Oh, you do have pause. All right. Can't get a move off. That has to do with controls. Falls over. So graphically, looks kind of muddy, to be honest. Yes, it is blown up, but that uppercut, there were no sound effects for that uppercut either. All right. Can't get her one move to work. There we go, nice counter uppercut. The controls are a little off because of only having 2 buttons. You hold the button to charge the Sai. No. big uppercuts. Alright, Scorpion just falls over. We just keep sweeping. Alright, so you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to play this, and I'm going to talk about the graphics, I'm going to talk about the sound, I'm going to talk about the controls, and the fun factor all in one video here. So let's talk about the sound. The music is looping. It's looping about 10 seconds over and over and over again, and it's been looping since I started the game. Now, as you can see, I can't pull off any moves really either. Now, that one's okay. We did get a fatality. Very ugly looking fatality. But the sound effects, they kept the speech, which is cool for names. There is no Shao Kahn announcing with uppercuts and such. You don't really hear any hit detection.
Fight.
I threw a punch there. I didn't even do anything with the controller. And I can't get her rolling move to work for the life of me, so I don't know if they took the move out or if it just doesn't work. As for throwing a sai, as soon as you hold the button, your character is stationary and will not move. So I can't throw a sai, unless... Oh, no, they changed it, so it's forward punch for the sai. I guess holding the button was too much. As you can see, no combos. The music sounds like the church stage. So I mean, while it's not playing on the right level, it's there. And if you're wondering why I'm just jumping around aimlessly, let's talk about controls. The controls in this game are absolutely horrendous. Jumping, you know, works fine. You can move your character around fine. That's responsive. But there's horrible latency on when you push the buttons. Half the time you don't even know what's going to happen. Like to do a sweep, you hold in a diagonal and you push the kick button, but it doesn't always work. Uppercut seems to work, but it's so slow. And then Sub-Zero's just going crazy on there. So I'll block. But you can see he's still chipping away at me. Well, if I keep doing that... So the controls are hit and miss. Overall, they're pretty crappy. I can't do her roll for the life of me. And the motion to do the that nail fatality that I did. See, does he do anything? Oh my goodness, the AI is absolutely horrendous.
Sub-Zero wins.
So yeah, the controls pretty much suck. The sound is average. Just keep looping and looping. Let's try a different character. Let's try one of the more common characters. Let's try Sindel. The sound is good. The speech is good. The tower graphics look good.
Fight.
There we go. Alright, so instead of screaming... Oh, look at that! I did pull off a combo. Right on. So I guess combos are included in this, even though I couldn't tell. She doesn't scream when you push forward punch. She throws a fireball.
Fight.
Look at at that. So it looks like I keep teabagging, but all I'm doing is trying to get a sweep kick. But if you don't do the input properly, she gyrates and ends up just teabagging the life out of Sub-Zero. The hit detection is god-awful. Trying to pull off some combos here. That one starts, but that's it. Definitely doesn't finish. Very, very hard. Alright, so is this game fun? He did a fatality. Let's play, and they announced fatality before the character winning. Alright, let's try one more match here, and then we can basically do a full rating for the Game Boy Advance version right off the hop. We'll play a little bit more. Let's see. Also, Mystery doesn't. So it just looks like Human Smoke and Mystery. I'm sure you have to unlock them. But overall fun factor. Would you have been disappointed as a kid or a teenager when this came out and you got it? Thinking, all right, I got the Super Nintendo version with me everywhere I go. His combo doesn't work. The webbing doesn't last too long. You know, they got the bank stage. I mean, they kept that in here. Can't throw a fireball in the air. The ground saw doesn't work. Looked like that combo was about to work. Nope. Overall fun factor. My goodness.
Sub-Zero wins.
I almost think I'd rather play the Tiger handheld version game of Mortal Kombat more than this one.
Fight.
Right on, knocked him through the ceiling. None of the controls really seem to work, though, very well. I mean, I get him with that every time. Even if it looks like they're blocking, but they do not stay webbed nearly long enough. Like, I can't even run up and throw a uppercut.
Finish him.
There you have it. Alright, I think we've played enough of Mortal Kombat Advance to know where this is going. Let's talk about the graphics first. All right, so while I was just going to look at graphics for both systems, I ended up playing more of the Game Boy Advance version, and I think within that 10 minutes of gameplay, I've pretty much come up with my final verdict for the Game Boy Advance. Well, I'm not going to talk about it all right now. We are going to look at graphics. First for both. So the Super Nintendo version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 I think looks fantastic. You know, considering how much content they crammed into this cartridge, the characters are all there with the inclusion of Rain and Noob Saibot, which weren't even in the arcade version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. They are in fact in this version, and I think just overall it looks great. The backgrounds look good. I think the characters, while a little on the smaller side, I think, you know, like once again, because of the amount of content they put on this, there was only so they could only make them so big. Graphically, the backgrounds look good. I think the color looks a little more faint or washed out in this version, I find. I don't know if it's just because it's on a bigger TV or what the case is, but to me it looks kind of washed out, and you know, so the colors aren't as vibrant as they could be. But I mean, overall, I think graphically the Super Nintendo version looks fantastic. So I'm going to give the Super Nintendo a 4 out of 5 for graphics. And let's talk about the Game Boy Advance version now. So. We covered a lot of content. A lot of 10 minutes was enough. We covered a lot of material, a lot of ground for the Game Boy Advance version. Now, as you can see, let's talk about graphics first. The graphics on the Game Boy Advance and still shots, and pictures, they look promising. That's for sure. Even when you start the game up, the title screen looks good. The character select screen looks good. There's animation for every character when you click on them. Rain and Noob Saibot are in this version too, and it really looks promising. The big roster. When you click on the character, it even says their name, which the Super Nintendo version doesn't have speech for the names. So the Game Boy Advance looks promising. Graphically, that's what we're going to cover for this topic here. It looks good. I'm going to give it, I'm being very generous, even though there's pixelation and such. Now remember, it is blown up on a bigger screen. If you're watching it on your phone, that kind of simulates more of, how you saw it back in the day on the smaller screen. It's still a little pixelated, but you can definitely tell who's who and what's what. So on graphics alone, we're going to give the graphics a 3 out of 5 for the Game Boy Advance. Now, while I did touch on the sound and the controls and the overall fun factor in the last bit of gameplay, let's first play a little bit more of the Super Nintendo so we can talk about the sound, and then we'll do the same for the controls and then the overall fun factor and the final verdict. So let's get into a little bit more gameplay for the Super Nintendo anyways, and let's listen to the sound for a bit.
Round 1. Fight.
All right, the sound sounds good. The speech, Shao Kahn laughing. The hits sound good. The music sounds good.
Round 2. Fight.
Shao Kahn sounds good. Now the only thing, well, it's not playing the right music, for instance.
Finisher.
And the game is very darn hard. You'll notice that the voice is missing for when they say the names. It's not a huge factor, but it was nice hearing Shao Kahn announce the characters when they would win or lose. They don't do it in this one. You'll notice too, yeah, Shiva is missing in this one. Let's try a little Kung Lao. So basically, you got to say the names yourself. It's not a big deal. You got to be your own commentator. Combos work good. Shao Kahn said excellent. Look at that. We won the round. Kung Lao wins. Let's see if we can get a fatality on him. But yeah, music sounds good. Speech is clear from when you do hear him talk. The hits sound good. The danger sounds good. Should probably block more. There we go, we got a fatality. The music changes for the fatality.
Fatality.
Excellent. Sounds good. All right, so the sound on the Super Nintendo version, it's very good, very good. The music in it all sounds pretty much arcade-like. The sounds on like the hits and the uppercuts and the kicks and such, it's all there. It's powerful enough that you know what's going on. The only thing that I noticed, like back in the day, right off the hop, was the speech for character names. Which, end of the day, it's not a big deal. Shao Kahn still announces fatality and choose your destiny and such. But just hearing your character wins, Liu Kang wins, Melina wins, like that was always cool. It really sucked that they took that out of the Super Nintendo version. But all the other sounds are pretty much intact. It sounds good because of the system itself. I mean, everything kind of sounds distant, but that's just the way Super Nintendo games sound in general. And back in the day, played on CRT TVs. It didn't really have that distance as much as it does when you're using a stereo, anyway. So the sound for the Super Nintendo is really not that bad. Again, we're going to give it a 4 out of 5 for the sound. Yeah, so that being said, let's take a look. The Mortal Kombat Advance for the Game Boy Advance now for sound. Once again, the sound wasn't bad. It had speech. The Shao Kahn announced the characters in this one, in which they didn't do for the Super Nintendo. They should have toned down a little bit of the speech on the Game Boy Advance version to perhaps, allow more memory for smoother gameplay and for better gameplay and such. But they left the sound somewhat intact. Now the looping of the music gets really annoying on the Game Boy Advance. As soon as you fire it up, they got that one tune going pretty much, and then with the character select screen, but back into the match itself, and the music starts up again, and it's just looping every 3 seconds, and it kind of drives me nuts. It kind of drives you nuts when you're listening to it. So it is kind of repetitive, but you notice too in the bank stage and the other stage, they do change around the music a little bit on the Game Boy Advance, but overall, it's nothing mind-blowing. But the sound, it's not terrible. I'll give it a 3 out of 5 for the Game Boy Advance. I'm being lenient, but it really wasn't that horrible. So let's take a look now at the controls for the Super Nintendo, and then we'll talk about both. All right, let's check out the controls. How does the Super Nintendo version control?
Round 1. Fight.
So Jade is always an absolute pain in the ass to fight. I can't even get any stinking moves on her. But let me tell you right now, it's not because of lack of control. The controls in this version are fantastic. They play exactly like the game should. Everything is extremely responsive. Dying is responsive, as you can see me doing. All the moves and fatalities are done with relative ease, as long as you know what the finishing moves are, or what the moves are. And there's really no issue when it comes to the control in this game. They did a fantastic job. Super Nintendo version controls pretty much near flawless. Let's see, does the smoke trick work on this one? When you jump back and you push an attack button, it'll usually get the opponent to throw a projectile at you, and that works for everyone. Smoke is the easiest, because if you throw a kick in the air, your opponent will throw their projectile, and you can just retaliate with that move. Does it work on this? It looks like it does. It's one of the cheesiest exploits for this game, but really it's the only way to get through it if you have no idea how to play it. So robotic smoke does the job. The controls are perfect. Let's talk about it. After I kick Jade's ass. Outstanding. Thank you, Shao Kahn. Perfect. Let's blow up the world. Super Nintendo styles. A lot of the bombs disappearing. Boom. We're all dead. Let's talk about the controls. All right, so the controls for this game. The Super Nintendo version handles great. The controls are fantastic. All the moves are in there for the most part. I believe they got rid of animalities on this version and included brutalities, which I think they should have left the animalities in and ditched the brutalities as they don't look that good on the Super Nintendo. But overall, the controls, they're responsive, they're quick. There's no lag. There's no latency. They do exactly what you want them to do. I give the Super Nintendo a 5 out of 5 on controls. I think they nailed it. They did a perfect job for it. And there's not really much else to be said about it. So the Game Boy Advance version, however, that's a different story. I couldn't get a darn thing to work. I was surprised I got that Melina fatality to work. But even so, down, forward, low punch wasn't the move that I thought it would be. She backed up and then swallow the nails and spit them at you, which is back, 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 forward, low kick. So they messed up the controls for that. Pulling off that move though I was really surprised I even did it. I couldn't get half of the moves to work when using Cabal. Pretty standard, easy stuff there. To you know, the moves aren't hard to do. Back, punch. Couldn't do his fireball for the life of me. The hit detection is so terrible on the Game Boy Advance version that it's almost like you're not in control. You saw me pretty much, it looked like I was teabagging when all I was trying to do was throw a sweep. The moves are very, very unresponsive. The controls are an absolute mess. Because you can jump though and move, you know, up and left and right with relative ease. I'm going to give the controls on the Game Boy Advance a 1 out of 5. And even that's generous. They are god-awful. So, you know, that's to be expected. So let's take a look at the overall fun factor, and let's give our final verdict on which one of these is better. I think you already know the answer, but let's give it one more playthrough on the Super Nintendo. And you know what? Let's do one more quick playthrough on the Game Boy Advance, and then we'll give our final verdict for which version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is better. So let's check out the fun factor. All right, last subject, last topic, fun factor. Is this game fun? Now you'll notice the rotation of the levels. I believe it's off in this one as well. That little smoke trick works, which is great. Definitely makes the game a lot more easy, a lot easier and accessible to rookie players of the game as well as veterans. Overall fun factor. Now the game is very, very hard when you play on your own, but these games are meant to be played with other people. However, I gotta be honest, I do enjoy this cheesy smoke exploit. I do have fun playing it like that. Fatality in the game. The Super Nintendo version is just very, very fun. Plays just like the arcade, how you would expect. With the way they handled Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, the Super Nintendo did a fantastic job with Ultimate Mortal Kombat. And I believe the other stages are in it. It's just the rotation in the arcade was horrible of the stages. You'd have to play through them each something like 3 or 4 times before the stages would start to cycle, which was unfortunate because the backgrounds in MK3 I thought were fantastic. But it looks like the Super Nintendo version has poor rotation also. Gotta love that cheese. So like I said, the only thing missing in this one is the animalities. Which kind of stinks because Smokes is pretty easy, down, forward, block, but it's out of this one. Anyways, let's do a little more gameplay of the Game Boy Advance version, and then come up with our final verdict for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo versus Mortal Kombat Advanced for the Game Boy. Alright, let's give this dumpster fire one more try. Let's use Ermac. Although it's not like combos work, so I don't really know why it makes a difference. And here we go. The worst music in the game just keeps looping and looping. Well, it looks like we started to get a combo going there. And I am trying to block. Just saying. I don't understand why the hell, or how the hell they dropped the ball so bad on this version. Especially, I don't know if any of you have played the 3DS version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. But that one is near perfect to the arcade, I found. I can't get Rimack's teleport move to work for the life of me. Couldn't block. I don't know what's going on there.
Scorpion wings.
We'll play through with one more character. Not like it's going to change anything, but, you know, what the hell. Let's use Rain. Rain.
Fight.
Alright, once again, the church music. Can't block anything. Character doesn't turn around.
Scorpion wings.
I am seriously shaking my head right now. That is not on camera, but I am, I swear. Now, the animation on the uppercut's good, it's just so slow. Alright, I think we've played enough of this. Let's talk about fun factor and give our final verdict on these two wonderful games. Alright, so there you have it, a little bit of gameplay for each, final little bit of gameplay for each. What do we think about these? So, the Super Nintendo, for fun factor. If it's single player you're looking at, then you have to know the exploits, you have to know how to cheese the computer, otherwise this game will absolutely kick your ass. It is very, very hard. That's a turnoff for some people, but you know, if you're to play with a friend or somebody else, I mean, that's what these games are all about anyways at the end of the day. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, no exception. This game is definitely better played with somebody else. Now with the inclusion of the jump-in combos there, where you can start off a combo by jumping in with a punch or a kick, I'm not a fan of that, but a lot of people are. That was a nice little inclusion into this version. The gameplay is fantastic, so in terms of being a fun game, it's absolutely fun. Playing on your own, however, like I said, it's if you don't know the exploits or if you can't figure them out and you don't figure them out, then this game is relentlessly hard and it's a bit of a turnoff. But does that mean the game is not fun? Not at all. The game is extremely fun. It's still a lot of fun to play with the variety of characters and finishing moves and combos and such. I mean, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is just a great game in general, and the Super Nintendo did a fantastic job of porting this over. So at the end of the day, I give the fun factor for the Super Nintendo a 4 out of 5, and that's only because it's a little too difficult when you play it in single player mode. But anyways, there you go, 4 out of 5. The Game Boy Advance version of Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Sorry, Mortal Kombat Advance, not Trilogy. Fun factor, this game's just, it's not fun. The game, and it's, you know what, it's not because of the graphics. The sound kind of kills it too, but it is because of the god-awful controls, and that being said, you can't even play the game. It is basically a button-mashing mishmash of garbage, and it plays horribly. And because it plays horribly, it's not fun. It's fun to watch somebody else play it perhaps and get pissed off and watch them get pissed off and how much they hate it, and it'll be fun to listen to people cutting this game up, I think. But the game itself, it just isn't fun. So I'm giving it a 1 out of 5 for fun factor, and the only reason it's getting a 1 is because it's Mortal Kombat and it looks cool. So so there you have it. So that being said, the 4 scores for each. The Super Nintendo version gets a 17 out of 20. Very, very good version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I enjoyed it a lot growing up. And, it's one that I could see if I was at somebody's place and they just happen to have it. I could see myself playing it because it's a lot of fun. It's a great game. As for Mortal Kombat Advanced on the Game Boy Advance, somehow I gave it an 8 out of 20, which looking back now even looks almost too lenient because it is just dumpster fire material, and I don't even think the game is worth playing. But again, the sound and the graphics are what gave it that higher rating, and my leniency on giving it 1 out of 5 for fun factor and controls too. I mean, 8 out of 20 still stinks. So at the end of the day, ding, 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 the winner is Super Nintendo's Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. It is much, much better than the Game Boy Advance version. And, if you have the opportunity to play the Game Boy Advance version, I say don't bother unless you just want to torture yourself and hate your life at the end of the day because the game is that terrible. So I think a more fair comparison would be, in fact, the Sega Genesis. Is that version better than the Super Nintendo? Well, we'll find out in another video, I'm sure. But at the end of this day, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo, much, much better than Mortal Kombat Advance on the Game Boy Advance. So, thank you very much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you back in another video very soon. Thank you very much.